Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of ASEC Conversations. Today, our special guest is Jamie Boggs, Interim Vice President of Athletics for Grand Canyon University. At this time, I'll turn it over to our host, Ashley Hammett. Ashley?
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. So you are nearing 1 full year in your position overseeing the day-to-day operations of the athletic department. What is your vision for GCU Athletics?
Just to give some background, the university back in the early 2000s had about 900 students on campus. We were $20 million in debt, and we weren't moving in a positive trajectory. And then President Brian Mueller and his leadership team came in and made some really tough decisions that were the right decisions for the university. And 10 years later, we're where we are today, which is with over 20,000 students on campus, 80,000 online, 200 plus acre of expanding campus. We were named one of the top 10 most beautiful campuses in the country. We have students with an average incoming GPA of 3.5. So just really great place where we are. So our vision for athletics is basically to catch up our program with the rest of the university. And that means developing champions in the classroom, in the community, winning at the conference level and also at the national level, which for Division I university, I know seems like a very lofty goal, but if you had asked, if we had told you back in the early 2000s that our plan was to have 20,000 students on campus, I don't think anyone would believe us. And so we're holding our athletics program to the same standard. We want to do it quickly. We're moving in a great direction. We've won 26 conference and regular season championships since turning Division I. We've increased our graduation success rate by 20%. We've won the Conference Academic Excellence Award over the last 2 years. So long way to go, but we're certainly moving in the right direction.
After joining GCU as Deputy Athletic Director in 2015, you played an instrumental role in its move from Division II to Division I competition. What were the most difficult hurdles involved in making that a successful transition?
Typically, when there's a transition from Division II, Division I, FCS to FBS, or any of those reclassifications in the NCAA, the biggest challenge is getting buy-in from the rest of campus. And that's because a decision to make a transition like that isn't an athletics program decision. It's a decision for the entire university. It requires changes in other areas outside of athletics. So it might be that the financial aid person needs to have more responsibilities and more time and resources or staff dedicated to supporting Division I athletics. And that's hard to tell someone who's not necessarily under your umbrella that you're going to have more work on your plate. And that's what happens when there's transitions. But fortunately at GCU, because we're already very much a collaborative and community and servant university, it was never an issue. And it's funny because the NCAA, kind of towards the end of the process, they asked that same question, what hurdles did you have? And I said, I have to be honest, we didn't have a single hurdle. So it couldn't have gone any more smoothly. And so, it's just, again, and I attribute that to the people at GCU.
GCU will have a new men's basketball coach this year, Bryce Drew, and a new coach for the women's basketball team, Molly Miller. Can you tell us what they bring to the program?
We are so excited about these two hires. Bryce has won at this level. He's also been an unbelievable recruiter at the Power 5 level. And so he knows how to win. At this level, he knows how to take us to the championships. He's also a relentless recruiter. He's the CEO of his program. He managed it so well. He builds great relationships. He's well known in our industry and well liked in our industry. He's also played at the NBA level, so he knows about player development. So all of those things. Additionally, I think he's such a great fit for our Christian mission, and he represents our university so well. So we're so excited about him. And Molly's the same. Molly is an absolute star. She is the most winningest by percentage college coach among men's or women's basketball at the Division I, II, or III level. I think last year, she lost, between the last 2 years, I think she lost a total of 2 games. But so unbelievable. But besides that, she's just got so much charisma. She's so smart, so brilliant. She's great at building relationships, and she's already connected so much with the people in the state of Arizona, even though she was born and raised in Missouri. So she's really going to do some great things for our program, and we're really excited about her.
Earlier this year, you participated in a panel hosted by GCU's sports business students that addressed the lack of women in supervisory roles. What were your thoughts and takeaways from this discussion?
That was a very talented panel, so that was definitely an honor to be on it. I think all of us came away with a very similar message, and that was it's critical for women to continue to build relationships. And sometimes we got to step out of our comfort zone, and a lot of the people in those leadership roles that are hiring are male, but we've got to do what we can and step out of our comfort zone and build real relationships. You know, throughout my career, there were people that didn't support me for whatever reason, whether it was they just didn't like me or because I was a female. But for every person that was like that, there was someone who was supportive. And those are the people that we need to continue to connect with and build our support with, especially in such a small industry. The other takeaway that I had from that panel is that we really need to have policies that support family. The family life is different now, and a lot of times both parents work. And if we want to keep the best people, we have to have policies to support the family. And this might be very general, but a lot of the family duties do fall on the woman, whether both parents work or not. And so, just as an example, I do not start meetings before 9. Because I know that there's going to be kid drop-off. The parent might call the parent over. The teacher might call the parent over, and things just get delayed. And I don't need to put that stress, on my team. So we have to have policies that support them, and that's the way we keep the best people and in turn the best women in these leadership roles.
Prior to joining GCU, you served as an Executive Senior Associate Athletics Director and Chief Operating Officer at Georgia State University, where you successfully led its transition from FCS to FBS. You also had oversight of all internal operations, strategic planning, and management, as well as an oversight of a variety of sports. What was your secret to successfully managing and prioritizing such a large scope of work?
I think the secret to any manager leading such a large number of areas and a large number of people is the team. The team is the most important thing, and having people that you trust, that are committed, that are hardworking, that understand a sense of urgency is what makes us able to do our job, which is leading the vision for that department. And so we were fortunate to have that at Georgia State. The other piece is just communication. When you have so many areas being pulled in so many different directions, you have to make sure that there's a great system in place that everyone feels comfortable communicating with each other, even if it means we get, I use a family model. Even if we have to fight like brother and sister, we're going to communicate. And just the last thing is just making sure that you have a culture that empowers your staff, and we certainly have that at Georgia State. And so the credit for being able to get all those things done certainly goes to our team.
You also spent 7 years with the Duke University Athletic Department, primarily focused on compliance. Can you tell us about the key role this position plays in the student-athlete experience?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've done the day-to-day of compliance, but it is critical in that the role really enforces and fosters the spirit of the NCAA. And the spirit of the NCAA is that we have to provide a great student-athlete experience. And so we just make sure that the systems were in place and, that we could monitor to make sure that things like practice hours weren't being exceeded and that student-athletes were eligible and that their academics were on track. So that was the main role from a day-to-day standpoint. But ultimately, just the culture of NCAA, student-athlete well-being is a priority for all of us, so regardless of what role we play. And so it is critical, but I think that's critical for every role in college athletics.
At Duke, you worked closely with the legendary Coach K. Can you tell us about him and how he was to work with?
I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. He's a great leader, a great person, very a servant leader is what I would say. I remember when I first started out in compliance at Duke, I was very young, very immature. I thought I knew everything. And, I made mistakes, just like everyone does. I made mistakes. And I remember a time when he pulled me aside just to explain to me the bigger picture of my role and how it impacted Duke. And I won't forget that, because he could have pulled a power move, but not once in my 7 years working with him, whether a decision that I made was helped him or hurt him. He never did that. Rather, he would always take the time just to have teaching moments with me. And not a lot of people do that, and he did that. So it impacted and influences my leadership today and the way I do things. And I'll never, I have nothing but just the utmost respect for him. He's absolutely the classiest person. And even today, I will still turn to him if I need advice on something. And I try not to bother him too much because he's very busy. But he has yet to not help me when I've needed it. So he's just a great person, and probably one of the greatest college basketball coaches we'll ever have in the industry.
As an intern, you worked with both the Orlando Magic and the Chicago White Sox. Can you share a few of those experiences with us?
I worked in corporate sponsorship with the Orlando Magic and in sports communications with the Chicago White Sox. There are things that I don't really do right now, but the great thing about them was they opened the door, and I think all of us know in the athletics world, you really have to take whatever you can get just to get your foot in the door, and to be able to work with those organizations was just a great opportunity. So I used a lot of that time to build relationships, and I still talk to people today from those organizations. In fact, one of my colleagues at the Orlando Magic was in my wedding. So, it's just you build those relationships, and that's what you have to take away from these positions that may not necessarily be what you think you want to do, but they end up impacting you in your career later on.
You were a Phoenix native and even took classes at GCU. How did you feel when you were offered to come home?
I had been in the South for so long between Duke and Georgia State. I had lived away from Phoenix for a very long time. And it's funny because every time I came back for vacation, I would drive by GCU's campus, and it just would get bigger and bigger. I said, what is going on with the school? So when I got the call to come here, I did some more research, and I was really excited. I mean, I've always loved Phoenix. I think it's one of the best cities in the country. The weather's fantastic. The community, we're a large city, but it doesn't feel that way. And it's just a beautiful city. And so the opportunity to be able to come back home, but also to be at a place like GCU I was just thrilled, and still continue to be thrilled at the opportunity to be here.
You graduated with a BA in psychology from the University of San Diego and earned a law degree from the University of Arizona. How and when did your decision to practice in the athletic arena come to you?
I would say that started really when I was pretty much 6, because that's when I started realizing how much I had a passion for sports. I was a diehard, like most people at that time, diehard Phoenix Suns fan. Just grew up watching the Phoenix Suns, then the Arizona Cardinals. And at that time, we didn't have baseball. So we didn't have the Diamondbacks. So I would watch the Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Cubs, the Atlanta Braves, because they were on TV. And I just had a love for sports. And that carried up all the way, through high school and college. But I never knew that there was opportunities necessarily to work in sports. I never really thought about it. No one in my family was in it, so it just never really occurred to me. In my first year of law school, I did an internship with a law firm, and I knew pretty quickly, although it was a fantastic law firm, I knew pretty quickly that's not what I wanted to do. And the one thing that always came back to me is I just loved sports. And so that's when I decided to just pursue that as a career, and it really just took off from there, and I haven't looked back ever since.
You are married with a son and a daughter. How do you balance your work life with your family life?
To me, there's no such thing as work-life balance. When you commit to one, you sacrifice the other, and I think that's just the nature of being a working parent. What I try to do is be very intentional with the time I spend on both, and I do a lot of planning. But especially with my family, I make sure that I carve out time and let them know that I'm going to spend some quality time with them on the weekend or in the evening. One thing I make sure I always do is have dinner with my family. And so what I do sacrifice is sleep, and that's fine. I will be with them from maybe 6 to 8, but after that, up until 11 or midnight, I will start to work, and that's just part of what we do. I don't think it's anything to complain about, though. I think it's a blessing to be able to serve at home and to serve at work. And so I just look at it as a very positive thing and an opportunity to serve.
If you could go back and give yourself some advice as an incoming college freshman, what would it be?
Definitely listen more than you speak. Be humble. And build relationships. I think all of us that have started out, when we graduate from college, we think you know a lot, and you learn very quickly that you don't know as much as you think. But just to be humble and listen. I think you make a lot of mistakes and they're going to happen. But the more you listen, the more you learn from them. I think you'll continue to grow, and that's the key is learning and growing.
And then finally, do you have a favorite quote that inspires you and that you would like to share?
There's actually a verse, Philippians 2, verse 3, that we have chosen as the one that will guide our athletics department this year. But it's the one that I live by on a day-to-day basis. I have it on my whiteboard, and it is do nothing out of a vain conceit or selfish ambition, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. And I think especially when you're in a leadership role, you sacrifice a lot. You sacrifice your family, you sacrifice vacations, time, sleep, and it's hard. And that verse to me is a constant reminder that we were given the responsibility to lead, and with that, we have to serve, and a lot of serving is sacrificing. And so it just keeps me going and reminds me what I'm here to do. And it's not about me, it's about serving others.
Well, those are all the questions we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Those are great questions. I appreciate you having me here, and you did a great job, and just appreciate all you guys are doing.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. We really appreciate your time today. And for all of you who joined us today on ASEC Conversations, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.